Okay, and then we have the recording icon. Okay, all right, I guess let's go ahead and kick off the meeting. We have the IRC notes, but it looks like everyone is here, so everyone can contribute. And can someone tell me what week it is? Are we starting with trace vocab or are we starting with trace interop?
Vocab.
All right. All right, starting with poll requests and going from oldest to newest. So we will start with term definitions for workflows. This is from NIS. I assume this was done on the call last week. There are a few suggestions. There's a change request, and NIS needs to revisit it, and NIS is not here.
I think just leave a comment on the PR saying at NIST to review and move on.
All right. All right, made a comment. And we will go to bank account credential, pull request 820. So this is from Adewale Falabi. Revocation examples. Mahmoud made a few comments. Wari made a few comments. We provide some feedback. F. Kim replies, will come back and addressed 5 days ago. So let's see, have they made any changes since we've last reviewed it?
Doesn't seem like there's been any changes since the last change request conversation happened. So I just left a comment asking what work remains in order to approve the changes.
Okay, sounds good. Pull request 833. This is mine. I moved it to a draft. In terms of our workflows definitions we're working with, intent to import, I think our plan is to leave as is, as we provide a purchase order along with the intent to import. So the idea is to source the truth for the products that come from the purchase order, and intent to import would be doubling that information needlessly. So I'm going to leave it in draft, and then once we confirm that internally, I will probably go ahead and close this PR without merging.
I would suggest just closing it right now if you don't intend to address the merge conflict and you don't intend to merge it.
All right, then closing now. And if something happens, well, probably not likely to reopen. All right, which brings us to 838, postal address inlining, which is from NIS. Fixes inlining postal address, remove description of parties. One file has been changed, which is bill of lading credential. And instead of referring to postal address, he refers to it in the file directly. This looks good to me. I'll go ahead and prove it. And GitHub just crashed. Approve. Okay, we have 3 approvals. I will go ahead and merge pull request 838. And then the last pull request is fixed syntax error, pull request 840. This was opened by me a couple hours ago. It's a very small fix. The indentation on entry number was wrong, and this was causing the schema to not parse correctly. So if we can get one more approval, I'll go ahead and merge this. If not, I will switch over to trace interop and we can come back and look at these. Oh, thank you, Chris. merging 840. All right, that is it for trace vocab in terms of pull requests. We can switch over to interop, pull requests, and we can do pull request 573. And this is from Russell.
Yeah, there were a few changes requested. I made those changes a very short time ago, so I think this should be good to go. Mostly changing content type to accept, which is a lot more appropriate, and the specific enum that Ori suggested.
Chris, you have a chance to ninja review this. Seems like he got all of the change requests.
Yeah, it looks good to me. I just approved. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. All right, we have 2 approvals. I'll go ahead and merge 573 on trace intro. Next pull request is 578 from Chris.
So this one is fixing a conformance, or I think maybe an interop test that NIS wrote. He was simply missing one of the variables for client audience in the Postman test, and it wasn't working for some of the cohort members. So I added it in.
All right, looks good. We've got 2 approvals. Merging 578. Next one is 579, probably also from Chris, I believe.
Yes, so this one is finishing up the changes from 457, where we removed scope, specific scopes from the interops and conformance suites. This particular change is to modify the actual tests in the interop suite.
All right, 1 second, let me approve. And merging 579.
This is not a reason to object, but I do see the difference between verifier client scope and client scope here. And given the changes we've made regarding scopes, do we need that distinction anymore?
We may not need that distinction. I don't know the answer to that, but we are using verifier client ID and verifier, I think endpoint. I can't remember exactly the term. So if we want to change it, we should change it in all 3 of those places.
Okay, I think it's probably better to handle in a separate issue. That's the only thing that stands out in that PR.
Yeah, I agree. That should definitely be a separate issue if you want to change that.
Okay, and then last pull request of this today is 580.
So this is a bit more of the same. The final PR in the suite of PRs that fixes 457, and this modifies all the documentation that still contains references to our specific scopes. Ori, I'm only just now seeing your change requests. I have not had a chance to get into that.
Yeah, I looked at this earlier. I think the only issue that I have is with the changes you made to the respec document. Like, there's this repeated language around OAuth scopes, and I feel like we should just clarify that repeated language once in the respec and then omit that repeated language in the README documentation. And that's why I requested changes, but it's really just that one comment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that and, you know, commit the changes because there are a number of places where this language exists, not just those two. I think there's 3 or 4, but if I can do that and commit those changes, maybe we can merge this offline before the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. I mean, you could also merge it as is and file an issue marker and respec, but I think we probably want to avoid doing that because we'll never get back to it.
Yeah, I'd rather just leave this one open and fix it.
All right, great. So we're on trace vocab weeks. So I guess the next agenda item would be to go to trace vocab and look at issues by these recently updated. Before we do that, are there any?
We should do interop PRs first before we do any issues. I guess there's only one interop PR open.
We
just
finished
did.
I'm dumb. Go ahead.
That's fine. All right, we can do trace vocab issues. Before we jump into that, is there any action items anyone wants to bring up, or any issues that we want to highlight first? Or are we okay with just going in least recently updated order?
We might want to prioritize grooming any issues regarding media types up front because we just merged that pull request that makes use of these new media types. And I suspect we have like probably a pile of issues that predate the current positioning around media types in the verifiable credentials working group. So I don't know if we can search through this list for anything regarding, you know, add support for JWT or use media types, but issues like that, we should start trying to address them first if we can.
Yeah, on trace vocab, I did a search for just the term media, and I'm not getting any results back. So
yeah, maybe it's probably less of an issue for the vocab than it is for the interop profile, I would imagine.
all right, let's look at interop and let's look at issues, and let's search by media type. It looks like there is one which is remove references to JSON Web Signature 2020. Where does this say?
We may have done that already. Can we confirm that that's done in this repo?
Well, let's see. On the issue, there's no mentions of pull requests or that this has been addressed.
Yeah, it's still present in these places on the repo. But this is exactly the kind of thing that's related to media types too, because you can see that in the use case requirements section, it's talking about JSON Web Signature 2020 and VC JWT, but VC JWT is super ambiguous, and it would be better to refer to the specific media types.
All right. Ori, is there any issue that you want to specifically reference in terms of media types, or do we want to create an issue if it doesn't exist?
I don't want to create any new issues if we don't have any. I'm just hoping that we could leave comments on the ones that we already have open.
Let's see. The only two of like they're even remotely allow JWT and credentials verify or support for SD JWT. I don't see a general media type.
Yeah, that whatever issue you're referring to there, those sound like good ones to go to next.
This is allow JWT and credentials verify. This is issue 453 on trace interop. It looks like Chris, this is issue you created.
I'm taking a look. So yeah, I think this right now our implementation expects the body of a request to credentials verify to be an actual credential and not a JSON, like an encoded JSON representation, JWT representation. Sorry, my words are failing me today. So I don't know if this is still a problem. I do recall, Russell, aren't we able to verify the JWT creds right now? I thought I remember testing some of your implementation and that was working. Perhaps we just need to document that in the Open API spec.
Is Russell on the call? I don't see his circle.
Oh, he texted me his power died. Something exploded
Oh,
outside
okay.
his house. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think this is probably modifying the Open API to account for the possibility that we may not get a straight JSON body with
Yeah, this is critical to address. The OAS file needs to describe the body requirements, and then the body requirements need to support the acceptable media types.
Can we make use of the content type here?
Yeah, so I mean, my expectation would be if you're looking at the verify endpoint, if the verify endpoint is if it's dedicating the entire post body to a well-formed serialization, then you would say the content type of this post body is this well-formed serialization. If it's nesting, you can't do that. Like you can't say an object that contains a verifiable credential is the same content type as a verifiable credential. So I think my preference would be dedicate the entire body of the network request to the known content types we intend to support, and then signal that you're sending that content type by setting that content type in the network request.
Got it. I see what you're saying. That makes sense. That is a deviation from the VC data model, though, right?
It's not a deviation from the VC data model. It is a deviation from the VC API JSON schema shape for this particular endpoint.
And do we have any concerns in that area?
I think it's cleaner to do what we're suggesting, but if I were to raise a concern, it would be that you really needed to make use of some optional parameters that you send along with the credential. And you don't want to pass those optional parameters as query string arguments or as headers. And like if you have that concern, then you would say the VC API's design is better. If you prefer to send those other optional parameters as query string or header parameters, then the proposed path that I just gave would be better.
Okay. Making a note. I'm sorry, and you said you prefer not to use headers in this case?
I would prefer to dedicate the network request body to the requested registered media types. So the entire body should be application VC plus LD plus JSON, or VC plus LD plus JWT. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Because it makes it so that your API is actually over the known registered media types instead of over wrappers around them that you always have to keep describing as being not the media types that you're talking about.
Okay. So this one is already assigned to me, and I'm happy to prioritize this one. this is definitely going to be a breaking change for all current implementers. Just heads up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other one, which is semi-related, would be support for SD JWT.
I would cross-link this to the other one that we were just discussing. SD JWT has registered media types, so you can address this at the same time by just acknowledging either support for those media types or not support for those media types.
All right. And then also, or you're the assignee on support for SD JWT.
Yeah, I think it's probably fine to leave me as that for now. I'm going to cross-link to the work item that defines the stuff. And I mean, until we intend to have interoperable testing on this, I don't think there's really any action here. I'm interested if folks want to, like, what the relative priority of this versus status list 2021 versus other things might be.
My vote would be more towards status list 2021, I think. Did my sound cut off? Is everyone still there?
Yeah, still here.
I heard you. I'll leave a comment, something to that effect on the ticket.
Okay. All right. Those were the only two issues that really stuck out to me as far as media type goes. Just one last caller. Is there any other issues that we want to bring up now, or are we okay to go back to the normal agenda of least recently updated?
I'm good to do the normal agenda. I'm gonna have to drop probably like right now though. So
Okay.
Good luck.
All right. We'll do what we can. All right. Starting with 587. Looking to removing Lorna from this repo.
So that one's mine. I think this was just a call out that we were still using Lerna, and that's really for mono repos with multiple NPM packages, which we don't have. So it seemed like it wasn't really necessary to continue using Lerna. And this was a placeholder to investigate specifically what those changes might be and whether or not we would break anything by taking it out.
Yeah, I think we've made some progress in terms of chipping away at it. Maybe we could try doing a search and just seeing where else it's still being called.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one certainly could be ready for PR. As far as I understand it, it's really not that big a deal, especially since we aren't actually using it, in a critical sense. Like we don't actually have multiple projects in this repo. So
yeah, I mean, it's just annoying to go and like surgically remove those kinds of commands from npm, though. That's the main thing on that. It's like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think we still want to continue. I'm going to mark this as ready for PR. I think we still want to search and try to continue to surgically remove it.
Yeah. I am wondering whether we have the quorum necessary to carry on here.
Oh, that's right, Russell. I was thinking Russell's here. If it's just you and me, Ted. Ted, do you have any opinions? Or are you?
I'm here. Yeah. I don't have strong opinions on it. don't think we're doing anything controversial, but if you guys don't feel like we're quorum, that's fine by me.
Yeah, I would definitely feel better with one more person on.
Yeah, the trace vocab is not my area of focus, so I would also prefer to have additional folks that are working in there to be on the call when we discuss these issues.
Okay. Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with this side of things more than the interop side of things, but I would prefer to have like Nis or someone else to bounce ideas off of, so I'm not doing weird things.
That's fine.
So
We can bail out.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
call it.
All right, let's go ahead and go here. Chris, can you post the minutes and do that stuff? Is that okay to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Then do I need to hit stop recording and kick everyone?
Yep, you'll need to stop recording, wait for everyone to leave, and I think probably kick anyone who doesn't.
All right, so I'm gonna hit stop recording now.